Am I the butthole for not giving one of my son's toys to my nephew, causing him to have an hours-long tantrum? We hosted Thanksgiving at my place. My brother, his wife, and their almost 4-year-old son were among the guests. As people were leaving, my brother asked if my nephew could take home one of my 2-year-old son's toy trucks. My nephew had been playing with it non-stop since they arrived and wanted to keep it. My brother said that he would replace the toy if I told him where I got it. I told my brother I'd be happy to give him a link to the store where I bought it, but I wouldn't give him the toy then and there. I refused for 2 reasons. Firstly, my brother and my sister-in-law have a terrible habit of giving my nephew everything that he asks for. He is way too old for that. Secondly, I don't want to reinforce in my nephew that it's okay to just take things that he wants. My brother said that my nephew would throw a tantrum if he didn't get the toy then and there, and that everything would be easier if I just let him take the toy and get sent a replacement in the mail. I told my brother that I would not be an enabler for my nephew's bad behavior, and that it's my brother and my sister-in-law's problem if he throws a tantrum. Of course, the inevitable happened. My nephew started shrieking inconsolably at the top of his lungs, and my brother, sister-in-law, and nephew had to leave. Later that evening, I got an angry text from my brother saying that my nephew screamed his head off for the entire 3-hour car ride home, and he only stopped screaming after he literally passed out from exhaustion. He said the tantrum was my fault since it could have been completely avoided if I had just given my nephew the toy. And he accused me of backseat parenting since, in his words, it's not my place to set an example for his son. My wife thinks that we should have just handed the toy over to make things easier, especially since our son has tons of toys, and he wouldn't have noticed it missing for just a couple of days. I still maintain that it's well within my rights to set an example for my nephew, even if it goes against my brother and my sister-in-law's parenting style of coddling their son, and that the tantrum is 100% a result of their terrible parenting habits. Okay, OP, so your brother and sister-in-law have a right to raise their kid however they want to. However, just because they have a right to coddle their kid doesn't mean that you also have to coddle their kid. They came to your house and expected you to give them one of your child's toys? It's like, excuse me? For some reason, OP, you didn't even address the fact that this is your son's toy. They can't just come to your house and expect to take your son's toys away because their son wants it? Like, what? In the same way that they have a right to raise the kid the way they want to, you have a right to say what happens with your property. And if you don't want to give them your property, then tough luck. They're just gonna have to deal with the consequences of having a spoiled, tantrum-throwing kid who always wants to get what he wants. Also, down in the comments, I have to read this post from Ratkin. How can you backseat parent if there are no front seat parents? Yeah, I agree. OP, you're not the butthole here. I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your brother and sister-in-law 1.5 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for not warning my cousins that my fiancé could understand them when they were speaking about him in a different language? My fiancé comes from a very mixed background and speaks a lot of languages. His great-grandmother comes from the same country as my grandparents, so he speaks Urdu too. A lot of people assume that he's just white though, and just by looking at him, you wouldn't guess that he has Pakistani ancestry. 3 of my cousins met him for the very first time on Saturday. In front of him, they switched to Urdu and were asking me questions about him, including where did I find this hot white man? I told them to stop, and they did, and they switched back to English. My mom called me to help her set the table for dinner, so I left them alone with my fiancé. While I was gone, they switched back to Urdu, and they were making inappropriate comments about my fiancé. My fiancé said that he found it funny, and when they were wondering if they should ask him if he was any good in bed, he said, I don't know, in Urdu, and they freaked out. They ended up leaving before dinner because they were so mortified. And then today, they called me to yell at me for not telling them and claimed they were only joking around. And they never would have said any of those things if they knew that he understood. They did apologize to my fiancé, but they still blame me for not warning them since they had no way of knowing that he would understand them, and I knew they liked to make dumb jokes. Am I the butthole? This is like a thief getting mad at a store owner for the store owner not warning the thief when they enter the store that they have cameras. So when the thief steals something and the cameras catch it, they're like, how come you didn't warn me about the cameras? You know how much I like to steal, and if I had known the cameras are there, I wouldn't have stolen anything. OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your cousins 2 out of 5 buttholes. Maybe they should stop making racist assumptions. Am I the butthole for calling a woman in the supermarket a creep? Today, I took my 3-month-old twin to the supermarket by myself while my wife had a day to herself. She stayed at home, and I've been working a lot more due to the holidays. While I was shopping, my daughter pooped. And I mean she pooped. There's no changing tables in the men's room, and there was no family bathroom. I went to the Starbucks in the store, and I asked if I could change her on one of the tables in the back. I have a blanket and a changing pad in my bag, so her butt wouldn't be on the bare table. The barista said yes, so I got to business. An older woman, probably late 40s or early 50s, came up to me and started talking to my son who I had strapped to my back. He's cute, so I didn't pay any mind. She then started telling me that I had to make sure to wipe her little cookie, referring to her privates. I told her that I am well aware of how to change a diaper, and she continued to critique my wiping style. And eventually, when I went to change her clothes due to the baby poop blowout, and while I was putting her dirty clothes in a waste bag, the woman goes to put her clothes on my baby. I snatched my daughter up off the table and told the woman, "I don't need someone else dressing my baby. Go away, you creep." The woman looked flabbergasted and then started crying, saying she was only trying to help. Pretty much everyone in the surrounding area told me that that was an overreaction and she was only trying to help me. I feel bad for snapping at her. My wife told me not to because she would have done the same thing, but I feel like a douchebag. Am I the butthole? What? This lady thought it was okay to come up to some complete stranger's baby, start commenting on the baby's genitals, and then start trying to dress this stranger's baby. Like, what? I feel like this probably isn't a crime, but I feel like it should be a crime because people shouldn't be able to come up to some 3-month-old baby and start picking it up and touching it without at minimum getting permission. Like, right? Can we all agree to not touch someone else's newborn infant without first asking, "Hey, can I touch your baby?" Is that too much to ask? Also, down in the comments, I'm gonna read this post from Jermic W. Not the butthole. If you were to reverse the gender roles, you probably would have walked out of there in handcuffs. Yeah, and honestly, OP, she was creepy. She just was creepy. You can't come up to strange people's babies and start talking about how to care for their genitals. Also, let's throw sexist onto the pile because she was just assuming that since you're a guy, you have no idea how to care for a baby, and that's just not true in 2021 anymore.